What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I am John Gleason, the Godless engineer, and I'm here tonight with Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels. How you doing there, Eric?
Hey, folks. Doing pretty good, John. How about you?
Doing pretty awesome. Just had a normal day at my software engineering job, and I'm here talking to another software engineer. So, I mean, I'm doing pretty good. So tonight, we're going to be taking your calls, if you guys will. Please think about any questions you might have for us. Be sure to call in. We definitely want to hear what you guys are thinking, what you guys are wanting to ask us about. We'd love to hear from it, from y'all, not from it, from y'all. But anyways, Eric, do you want to let everybody know kind of who you are and where they can find you at and stuff like that?
Sure. My name's Eric. My channel is called Skeptics and Scoundrels. You can find it on YouTube. It's about a 6-month-old channel, so still very early on in the growing and figuring itself out phase. It's kind of like an adolescent human, except it's not. It's a YouTube channel. So I just talk about kind of whatever. I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I also like looking into countering apologetics and various other kind of responses to Christian claims and just kind of exploring and searching for the truth. So, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
Awesome. Well, just so everybody knows, I totally butchered the intro that I'm supposed to do for this particular show. Always remember it at the last minute. So we're on SkepTalk tonight, everybody. Today's date is June 5th, 2023. You all need to call in. We'd really appreciate it if you did. The number is 1-720-619-2288. You can call in and you can ask us any questions that you want, like or if you think that you can prove that God exists. Both Eric and I are atheists, so if you have a question about God's existence, we will do our best to answer it. Or if you want to challenge us on God's existence, or for me in particular, if you want to say, I can prove Jesus existed, or for either of us, evolution is bullshit. We would love to hear y'all about that. Speaking of evolution, I know that right before the show we were kind of talking about AI and evolution, and you were wondering about a good time to talk about it, and I think right now is a pretty good time. While we're waiting on people to think of stuff to talk about. Everybody in the comments get really mad about evolution. Grrr, evolution shit. But anyways, all right, Eric, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I kind of just sprung this on John and Jimmy just literally minutes before the show started because it was just kind of just a random thought I was having today. Artificial intelligence is something that is on a lot of people's minds these days. It's all over the news. We're seeing large strides in development and success using what we call artificial intelligence. And there's various ways to implement artificial intelligence. There's various ways to execute it in code, design it, and do all kinds of stuff with it. Maybe 10 years ago, everyone remembers Deep Blue on Jeopardy and how phenomenal that was with how accurate mostly it was with, getting correct answers and the speed at which it could do research. And now, a decade later is an eon in the terms of technology, and artificial intelligence now is doing really amazing things where, you can go to ChatGPT and maybe ask it to grab you some information, and it might not 100% be there, but it's darn close to really accurate. I'm not saying rely on it, but I'm saying it's a really good tool for aggregating information, and then you can check on the veracity of what it generates you and use it. It's a very fast way of doing these things. We're generating, images using AI software called Midjourney, among others, where you can go into, say, Discord and just say, hey, give me an image of this and this and this in this color and this style, and I want all these other options, and it'll do it for you within seconds. So an interesting thing about AI without getting too much into the nitty gritty of it, is that many AI models use something called deep learning. It's a lot like how your brain works. Your brain is a bunch of connections and synapses, and it's this mesh of connections that just kind of comes together and makes you and allows you to process input and create outputs. And that's really all deep learning is doing. But the question is, when you're creating a deep learning algorithm, or I'm sorry, not an algorithm, I'm sorry, when you're implementing a deep learning algorithm, the idea is you create a program. It has the deep learning algorithm in it, but it doesn't know how to do anything yet. And if you wanted to do something simple, like let's say, play a game of Super Mario Brothers, it doesn't know how to do that yet. But what you can do is start to train it off of playing Super Mario Brothers and allow it to make mistakes, learn from it, apply pressures, negative pressures to mistakes, positive pressures to successes. And you do this over and over and over again. You basically you have a Mario in the game. He knows how to do a few things. You make, say, 200 copies of him. And on every one of those copies, you make little adjustments. This Mario can jump a little bit higher. This Mario is a little bit smaller. This Mario's maybe a little fatter, but he can run at, a little bit faster than that. All kinds of little adjustments you can make to all those Marios and have them all run the Super Mario course. The ones that die early, okay, we don't want them. Get rid of them. The ones that are successful, we can then select for additional replication and mutations, and then run the same test all over again. You find the Mario in that new group that performed the best, select him for replication, add mutations, do it all over again. Do this for hundreds and hundreds of generations. With computers, it's really nice because we can do this within seconds. And before you know it, you have a deep learning AI trained Super Mario that could run the course perfectly. And it doesn't take that much work. In fact, if you go to on YouTube after the show, go find a channel called Seth Bling. And he has a video called Mar I/O. And he demonstrates all of this. He shows you the neural net at operation. He shows you what the Mario's like at the beginning, and it shows you what the Mario's like at the end when it's trained. What all of this means is this is evolution by artificial selection in action. I'm not presenting this as evidence that, hey, that means evolution in nature is true. But it is hard evidence that evolution as a model and as a driving force for change that improves creatures over time for their environment, it is a concrete implementation of that. Evolution as a model works, and we have hard, demonstrable evidence to show it. So if you ever have a creationist or an apologist or somebody who just simply doesn't believe in evolution say, evolution as an idea is stupid, it would never work, it's just a non-starter, you can point them to these videos and say, hey, look, I have Seth Bling's video on Mara IO. There's another really good channel called Code Bullet. And this guy, he does all kinds of cool AI-driven programs that are really fun and entertaining. And he shows you exactly how it works as you go, which I thought was really interesting because, like I said, evolution as a model, as evolution as a driving force for change in a population works. That's all I have to say about that. What do you think, John?
Well, if I could play devil's advocate here, hold on, let me get in the right headspace.
Yeah.
Listen, okay, I get what you're saying, but like the thing is that with biological evolution, they're saying toads turn into fish, and so I don't see the Mario game turning into Tetris. Therefore, you haven't done shit for evolution. Booyah. Mic drop. Except my mic's on the stand.
To that I would say, listen, you need to go and learn about evolution from the people who are actually teaching it in college courses and the ones who are writing books on it and are the ones who are actually doing research in the field. If you go to channels like Ray Comfort, Kent Hovind, Ken Ham, they're going to give you these absurd ideas of what they think evolution is. In fact, the whole idea of a crocoduck or a toad turning into something else in one generation, if we were to see anything like that in the real world, that would blow evolution out of the water, because evolution doesn't describe a process like that. Evolution describes a slow, gradual, incremental process over deep time. If you were able to present something like that, a crocoduck, yeah, that would kill evolution overnight because the model doesn't support that. So get your information from real sources. Don't go to Christian apologists. Go to the ones that are actually, researching and teaching this, because you're going to get the most accurate information out of them. Speaking of which,
yeah, I totally agree.
Forrest Valkai, Guts of Gibbon. Go to them. They'll talk to you about it.
Yeah. Both of those are great. Aron Ra is also a great creator that's also on the line. But yeah, I totally agree that it's a good example of artificial evolution or artificial selection that evolves a certain thing. But yeah, we do have a few calls already lined up. We've got our first call here from Paul, or I'm sorry, just letting everybody know that to send in your super chats, we're gonna address them at the end of the show. So any kind of AI questions you have from two software engineers, or any other kind of software engineering thing or engineering related to God or anything like that, be sure to send in your super chats, or else we're gonna have to train an AI model to mimic Jimmy, and we're gonna sell the channel to that. So, I mean, sorry, Jimmy. I know that you really like this channel and everything, but we're probably going to have to end up selling it off to an AI replica of you. But in any case,
opposed.
No,
that was the worst threat we've made so far.
Is it? Damn it! Figure it to be topical. Shit. Okay. Anyways, so be sure to send in your super chats, or I'll figure out something else that's really worse that Jimmy will hate, and we'll do that. Anyways, so Paul, we're gonna get to Paul here. Howdy, Paul. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Hi, Paul.
Fantastic. I'm doing great. Godless Engineer, I'm a fan of your work. Eric, I'm going to start getting into your work more because you're topical to a thing that I need, being an ex-Jehovah's Witness.
Well, hey, a fellow brother.
I was not a Jehovah's Witness. My father was raised as a witness, and my son's mother just got re-fellowshipped. My father, he was disassociated a while back, before he married my mom.
Okay. Did he willingly disassociate, or was he kind of disfellowshipped by the congregation?
He willingly disassociated. He still listens to sermons every now and again while he's out and about, but he willingly disassociated, and he hasn't really gone back as far as I know yet.
Okay.
But I do see that in his future with the way that he talks to me.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then you said your who was the other family member that was also in, you said?
My son's mother.
Son's mother. Okay.
We're not together anymore, but that's a completely different issue entirely. But try and make sure my son gets taught how to think critically and not think in the box that's prescribed is I reach out to stuff for that. But the main thing that I called in for, I don't know if you had a name for it, but so during pandemic, I mean, I still got, because of my ex, I presume that I was still on a mailing list for witnesses to try and bring into the whatnot. The most recent one I received was wrapped in plastic wrap, and I can't think of why they would do that. I of course opened it, I read it, it was the normal BS, but there wasn't, I don't understand why it was plastic wrapped. Do you have any theories of why that would be?
So was it a book or a magazine, like a publication that was sent to you for you to read, is basically what you're saying? And you're wondering why it was plastic wrapped?
It was a handwritten note.
Oh,
that was in a hand addressed envelope.
Yeah, probably a personal return address on it, like to a personal residence.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So to answer your question, witnesses during COVID and they had to pretty much exclusively rely on letter writing and what I don't know if they were doing cart witnessing where they actually like sit out on a street with a cart and wait for people to come up to them. They were doing probably a lot of phone calls and a lot of witnessing. That's not done in a centralized fashion. It's not done from a central location. Like there's no headquarters in your country that is organizing this and doing all the activities there and sending those things out. They delegate that those responsibilities and that work out to individual congregations, and then each congregation self-organizes with members of the congregation doing the letter writing, packaging things up, mailing things to people that might be interested. So the first correspondence you got in the mail might have been from somebody, and then the second correspondence that was wrapped in plastic might have been just from somebody else, and that person just decided to wrap it in plastic, maybe to protect it from water or other reasons too. So there's like I said, this is a decentralized effort that they do, and each congregation self-organizes and worries about the details of how it gets executed. There's no like overarching oversight of it. They get general instructions, and each congregation just kind of executes it as they see fit.
All right.
Yeah, I wouldn't think too much into it.
Choice to wrap it in plastic and freak me out.
I would not read into that at all. Yeah, that to me that's it's nothing. It's just whoever wrote that to you decided to protect it with whatever. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, deal. I appreciate that.
All right.
Other than that, favorite adult beverage and where should I get it?
You're in Germany?
I'm in Iowa.
Oh, you're in Iowa. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I saw something flash up and say Germany earlier. I must have. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, great. You're in the U.S. So I live in Washington. Washington's great for microbreweries. There is a microbrewery here called Georgetown. They make an excellent IPA. I recommend if you can find a way to get it online. Maybe you have like a Total Wine or some type of liquor store near you that has like imports from states. Yeah, I recommend the Georgetown IPA. It's called Bodhisattva. It's in a red can. It's very tasty.
Okay. We'll keep it in mind.
If I had to give my 2 cents on this, I go the liquor route. I usually like to get either like a spiced rum, and that would be like either Captain Morgan or Kraken. Either one works, but you mix that with Sprite Zero, or I guess regular Sprite would also work. But if you do it in the right amount, you get this really nice like cream soda kind of taste. And it's really nice if you mix it right. So that's what I used to drink like a good bit back when I was drinking a little bit.
Nice.
I will make some experiments because I get my son Sprite as a soda just so I don't have to deal with the caffeine high.
Yeah.
But if you're ever in my area, I make mead, and if you ever want to try it, by all means.
I do like me some mead. Yeah.
I don't think I've had mead before, so I definitely have to try it at least once.
I had a workmate in my previous job. He would bring in mead every couple months, like honey mead and like the sweeter stuff. It was actually quite good. It's you should try it out one day.
It's pretty tasty. I promise. I got my recipe from another YouTuber, but I appreciate your guys' time. I know you got other callers to get to. I don't want to steal too much time.
It's okay. Thank you, Paul. We appreciate you calling in.
Absolutely. And if I get something more that I hear about, I'll call in again.
Okay. Awesome. Right. Great. Well, you have a nice night there, Paul, and I guess we'll talk to you in the future.
Until next time, be well.
Bye, Paul.
I wasn't crazy, right? I saw Germany flash on the screen before Paul started speaking. I might have to rewind and look at that.
I'm just kidding. It was right at the beginning of the call. I hit the wrong shortcut, and it showed an old tag that said someone named Matt from Germany. Okay. But it was very, very brief.
Eric's too quick.
That's right.
Well, I do want to, talk about a little bit about our Patreon here at The Line. If you want to help support the show here, you can go to patreon.com/call the line. And then we have a number of shows that are coming up this next week. If I can get to the line schedule real quick, we got a nice little sheet here. Now I need to find the correct day. Okay, so tomorrow night, Tuesday, we've got Dying Out Loud with Dave Warnock and Owen Morgan, and then on Wednesday, Matt Dillahunty and Arden Hart are going to be doing the Hang Up, and then on Takis, we've got Katy Montgomerie and Dr. Ben for Thursday night. Friday and Saturday are shot, and then apparently Eric is also going to be here on Sunday.
Yeah,
the 11th. Double booked. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. I just thought of your name, and I was just like, "That's a perfect match."
Double booked means double paycheck, right? Right, Jimmy?
We will pay you twice what we were going to pay you tonight.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, and the next check you send me, I appreciate if you didn't write it in crayon, by the way. So
yeah, it's going to come plastic wrap too.
Oh no.
All right, so we definitely do have a lot of lines open. So if y'all want to call in and argue with us about God, I noticed somebody in the chat didn't realize that I was a mythicist. So if y'all want to call in and challenge me about that particular subject, I'm perfectly fine having a conversation about it. So definitely consider that, roll it around in your brain, consider calling in about it. But next up, we got Gabriel from Canada. What's up, Gabe? Hey, how's them Tim Hortons?
Hey, how are you?
Doing good.
All right. Oh,
yeah, this is just where you say what you want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, my question. I wonder if you two, you ever talked about anarchism, and if you applied skepticism toward the state and its legitimacy.
Okay. Well, so as far as anarchism goes, no, I do not. I do not look favorably upon anarchism, especially being a diabetic. I don't know how to produce my own insulin, whether I steal it from I believe we get some of it's maybe from cows or pigs, but then the artificial one, I don't know. So anarchism is a hard no for me. Like, I don't know how this applies to being skeptical of the state, because I feel like that could be a big conversation. But as far as like being skeptical of organized society, no, I'm not skeptical of organized society. What about you there, Eric? You skeptical of the organized nature of society that we live in?
I'm pretty much in alignment with you there, John. I'm actually not very clear about what you mean there, Gabriel, about applying skepticism towards government or towards an organized society, if that's how you worded it.
Sure.
I see. Okay. I see society. Really quick, I'll give me 10 seconds, and I'll hand it over to you. I see government and society and laws and social agreements as it's a pragmatic compromise. It's like, okay, what would I prefer to have more? Would I prefer to have total freedom to do whatever I want, or would I want to trade some of those freedoms to have some security, knowing that, hey, I'm at a much lower chance of getting killed for my stuff, or I'm a much lower chance of the bank just simply saying, hey, we're going to take your money and screw you, nothing you do about it. Like there's trades and compromises we make in order to get something in return, and that's just the way humans are. That's just the way society is. I'm not saying all governments execute this properly. I would love to see a government that does this better than probably a lot of what we see on the planet today. But it's a pragmatic trade, and I think it's one that's valuable and worth having. But go ahead and elaborate on your question.
Sure. So I think, if you'll excuse me, that you two have a wrong idea of what anarchism advocates. So anarchism is if we look at what the thinkers of anarchism are saying, like I don't know, Kropotkin or Bakunin, if we look at their writings, anarchism is not the complete collapse of society and everyone is by themselves. Anarchism is fighting against hierarchy. So hierarchies of power, like having a boss or having a master or having a god or like that. So it's not about just destroying society, but making it egalitarian, more equality. So less hierarchies, more equality. So it really gets down to socialism, I guess. So with the people controlling the means of production, if we go on the economic side and on the politics side, it will be more democracy, actually. So democracy without a master that we just elect every few years, but democracy where everyone participates in. So
you're talking about more of a direct democracy. You're talking about more of a direct democracy with that last bit there, right?
Yes, direct democracy is a big part of anarchism.
Okay. A quick follow-up question there. So the term anarchy, right, has kind of a general meaning, and I think you're operating off of a modified definition of that word. You said that anarchy is not the complete collapse of society. Some people would say that that's what that word means, and I'm not saying you're wrong in your definition, but what word would you use to define or to describe the complete collapse of society and rules and government?
Yeah, that would be anomy. So without rules, and anarchism is without rulers, so without masters, without hierarchical system.
Okay.
That's the root word of it. So actually anarchism was that definition, and from time to time it was changed from anomy to anarchy to discredit, or I guess people were just not quite understanding that. Okay.
So we're operating on slightly different terms here, and for the sake of conversation, I'm willing to adopt the terms that you're using. Anomy being what colloquially would be regarded as anarchy, and then your version or your definition of anarchy with all these rules: direct democracy, socialism, egalitarianism. There's aspects of that I find positive and I would agree with. So, how am I not applying my skepticism?
Synonym would be libertarian socialism.
Libertarian socialism. Okay. So there's aspects, we haven't dived too deep into it yet, but there's aspects of that I would potentially agree with. Okay. So we've already established that we had a differentiation, we had a difference of terminology and definitions, which I think hopefully we just smoothed over a little bit. Now we're more on the same page.
Sure.
Is my skepticism still not being applied to this? How is my skepticism not being applied to this still? Is my question, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess if you're skeptical of hierarchies, like what legitimacy does a boss have? Does someone with large amounts of property have, other than the state, which anarchists describe as the institution which has the monopoly on the means of violence, like the police, the army, and laws that benefits the upper class at the detriment of the lower class, the exploited.
Okay. We see that in society today. Those in power and have money tend to seek more power and money, and the cycle continues. Can you name me one thing that I'm not applying my skepticism towards with this definition of governance?
I guess the state.
I'll be honest with you, because I haven't really expressed my idea of what government should be yet, so I don't see how you can determine whether I've actually applied skepticism to it or not.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually asking, if you've applied skepticism towards how the state is organized with, I guess, that point of view of the monopoly on violence. So I don't know if you've ever.
Well,
let me ask one more question. What is the claim that I should be applying my skepticism towards? Give me one claim I should apply my skepticism towards, because you're describing an idea of governance, and you're describing what governance actually is, but I'm not hearing any claims in here anywhere.
Okay, I guess the claim would be the state has legitimacy on having the monopoly on violence and using that to impose hierarchy. Does it have a legitimate answer to that, or is it just because they just have the power?
I'm not quite clear about the question here, because you're talking about legitimacy of it, and something to be legitimate, there has to be laws behind it, and that's what the government makes. So I'm sorry, I'm not following the question here. John, were you going to mention something there?
Well, I mean, I feel like Gabriel, you have sort of a pie in the sky idea about your anarchist society here, just because like there's the whole like it's kind of one of those situations where I feel like it works in theory, like everybody working together, and like I looked up the definition of anarchism on Google, and it puts a heavy emphasis on the organization of society on a voluntary and cooperative basis. I mean, just imagining like American society on a voluntary and cooperative basis, like self-organizing and shit. I don't see how that can actually happen, at least not with how society is now or anything like that. I think that you would have to use violence and force in order to mold society in that direction. So it just seems to me, it just comes across to me like you're upset over the existing government controlling the army and whatever other law enforcement agencies to enforce the laws of the government that you don't like, and you would rather use those forces to instill a new kind of government that you would prefer because it seems to work out for you. Is that, I mean, am I off the mark here on that? Because it just seems like I'm trading one shitty fucking entity for another shitty fucking entity.
Well, I think you're wrong. I think you've strawmanned me there. I don't want to be rude, but yeah, just like I don't want to be ruled, I don't want to rule other. So I want to work with others.
That's a little hold on. That's a little contradictory to what you've described here, because on the one hand, you say that you don't want to rule over other people, but I mean, you're talking about a society that's completely purely democratically ruled. So that's like, you know, are you talking about like, I guess popular vote rules? Like if everybody votes to kill gay people, then we institute a law where gay people are killed. Is that what you're saying?
Well, since gay people would be part of the process of deliberating on that question, they will obviously say no. So
gay people and the proponents of gay people are not like a majority of the population, I would say. I mean, I think that there is a significant force of people out there now that maybe not wants to kill the LGBTQ community, but they're definitely opposed to them like being treated as equal citizens or equal members of society. So, I mean, you know, and of course, this is us talking about like society now. If you just go back like 5 years, I mean, they have even less of a portion of the population. So what you're talking about is the potential in the future for a majority of people voting to, you know, outvoting the LGBTQ community and saying, nope, if you're part of that community, you get stoned, like you get killed for being part of that community. And I mean, you could replace LGBTQ with any other community that you don't like, any other marginalized community out there. So, I mean, it just seems like you're wanting to replace the current government with a government that's run on an ad populum basis. And as long as the majority of people agree on one particular thing, that's what the entire society should do. Is that not correct? If that's not correct, what do you mean by a purely democratic-driven society?
Well, of course, that's incorrect. That's not what I advocate for. So I advocate more of a decentralized thing, so more of a confederation type thing. So the democracy is closer to home. So it's not those big statewide referendums and all the like. It would be closer to home, like in your city or even part of the city. So from there, you can be closer to people. You can talk to them.
He doesn't know he's talking to someone in Alabama.
So we already have a
John,
system
only
like
your
that.
queers are fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we have a system like that. We have local governments, city governments, state governments, and federal governments, and the system is set up so that a federal law cannot be overridden by something that's underneath it. But in things that the federal law doesn't address, then it's up to the states and city governments to come up with rules for themselves. So we already have a system like you're describing here. I agree that the current U.S. system is not perfect. It has corruption throughout. But let me ask you this: on paper, as the U.S. government was originally intended to operate, do you agree with that or disagree with it, or are you somewhere in the middle? Because there's how it was supposed to be, or how it was designed, how it was actually implemented in reality, and somewhere in between is kind of where we are. Or well, we're in reality, but we're not exactly the way it was designed because corruption creeps in, changes creep in. Humans are imperfect and don't implement things, precisely. What do you not like about the current government? I guess name one thing.
I guess first I have to differentiate government and the state. So the government is how we organize ourselves, and the state is the upper class that controls hierarchically and has the monopoly on violence. So those two are kind of different. So against government, I don't have anything. I think we should organize ourselves. I just think it needs to be more democratic, more egalitarian, less hierarchical. And against the state, I just don't think that people should have a monopoly on violence and should be able to make laws or use violence against others. And
what do you mean
create
monopoly on
laws
violence?
that are injustice. So the monopoly on violence would be the police, the army, and the laws that are not that are passed without considering the peoples that it will affect, their points of view.
So are you jealous that you don't have any power to do violence against other groups of people? Is that what, like, you're saying that instead of having one big nation, you want to have like millions, I would say, of small pop-up societies that, and by the way, like my little spiel earlier isn't affected by however small you make it. Like if you just want to go city by city and it's like it's run by some democratic board or, everybody in that city is going to adhere to this whole democratic idea, which, by the way, you're talking about like removing hierarchies. How exactly are you going to organize everybody voting democratically and then enforce whatever people are voting for? Or like, are you just replacing one hierarchy with another? I guess my question is, how do you organize like that kind of effort, like on whatever scale?
Okay, so I guess it would be organized from the bottom up instead of top down. So how it would be, I'm not a prophet. I cannot say how the change will happen. I just know that this is the change that we should strive for.
No,
that,
okay. So what I'm
we should
asking
strive for-
specifically, what I'm asking specifically, let's assume that we've got this continent that's made up of all these little pop-up, fiefdoms or whatever you want to call them, these pop-up communities that are democratically run, like you're talking about. Who is the entity, whether it's a single person or multiple people or whatever, that organize everybody together and call a vote and then enforce whatever is being voted upon?
So the people themselves, when they are part of a democratic, I forgot the word. The democratic demarche, how it works, if they are part of the decision making, they are more likely, and it's kind of proven that when the people make decisions, they are more likely to follow the decisions that they made. So if it's made democratically and all the people involved.
So I've just been watching 2 different Hillsong Exposed documentaries that say different, because those are organizations that are set up and they make rules in one way, but then they operate in a different way. So I don't know what you mean by humans will just naturally adhere to the things that they're voting for. Because all throughout the South here, people are constantly voting against like LGBTQ rights, while at the same time they're looking at gay pornography on the internet. So I'm just there's nothing wrong with looking at the gay pornography. I'm just talking about how people vote one way when they really feel another way. And I feel like you have this pie in the sky kind of attitude about how everybody's just gonna, vote for whatever in the fuck. They're just gonna know. Nobody's gonna organize this vote. Nobody is presenting a particular law or anything like that in order to vote upon. Everybody just intuitively knows we're voting on this, and I'm gonna, I guess, psychically transmit my thoughts to all of my neighbors, and we're all just going to vote right there and psychically agree. Like, because unless you have some kind of hierarchy out there that's actually organizing the vote and then is enforcing whatever is voted upon, then I don't see how what you're proposing is different than the government that we have now, in that it's still hierarchical.
That was what I was about to ask. It sounds like to me, Gabriel, you want what we currently have, just without the mega rich, the mega powerful, and the corruption.
Well, I think you see democracy as just voting, and I don't think that's what I mean by democracy. Democracy is about organizing. It's about talking and understanding each other. It's more than just voting. So I was just using that as I was just using that as one particular example of what happens in, like whenever we're voting, like whenever we're making decisions democratically, we're taking, like, we're trying to make a decision on something based on how the populace feels, and the way that you do that is by taking a vote. Whether that's just to raise your hand in the air or give a yay or a nay or whatever, like, you're still voting. Like, if everybody, like, it requires everybody to cooperate with each other in order to come to decisions together. Because if I'm just sitting over here in my house in the land of John
Villia or whatever, John Landia, and I decide, what? I really like the Tesla that's sitting in my neighbor's yard, and I feel like I should have it. Then, as long as I have the kind of demeanor and the kind of weaponry in order to take it from my neighbor, it kind of feels like then nobody else can say anything about me. So how is this different than our original idea of anarchy? Because it just kind of seems like you're just saying, oh, well, everybody will be nice to each other. That has always happened in society, right? There's not like there's this long history of people being shitty.
Again, that's a straw man of I didn't say that.
Well, I didn't say that you said that. I'm trying to logically think out the system that you're proposing here. Like, I get that you're proposing a system that has this pie in the sky. I know I've said that before, but this pie in the sky idea about how it would run. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to logically think out, like, what are the ramifications of a society set up like this? What are the issues that we still fight now in our society that are not just going to magically clear up? That's what I'm thinking about here. I'm thinking ahead. I'm trying to plan out the chess moves to see what moves are going to be made if you do one thing or another. I mean, this kind of forethinking is really not like anything that hasn't been done before. Anytime you're going to be organizing a society, whether that's an anarchist society or this kind of societies that we have now, you're still going to need to think about the ramifications of the decisions that you make. So that's all that I'm doing. I'm not saying that you're proposing any of this. I'm saying that what you're proposing is going to cause A, B, C, and D to happen. And so that's where I'm at.
And I think that you seem to envision this new society as applied right now, but no, it's a process. It takes a long time to. It takes a social change as well. It's not just a change of right now. Oh, sorry, I forgot. It's not a change that happens as quick as batting an eye. So of course, it takes a process.
So you're saying that the kind of society or the kind of government that you're envisioning can't just be set up. It's a long development over time in which everybody has to agree with each other about how this government is to be run. Is that correct?
Well, if they do not agree, at least they don't have to. They can. Oh wait. If they do not agree, if they at least do not disagree, if they are apathetic to it, and I guess that's okay. But if they disagree, that's where we have to use the process of talking, debating, and looking for what is true and good for the people. And that's how.
How is this different than our current society? Because we have political debates now. We have people that disagree with how the government is running things now, and so we do that. We have discourse. We have debates. I don't see how what you're saying is different from how things are run now.
And we have
other
also
than the hierarchy.
We have also used that process. That's how our current country, the United States, was formed. There was a lot of debate, a lot of argumentation over which laws should be in the Constitution, which ones shouldn't, what should be in the Bill of Rights, which ones shouldn't. That process has been in place this whole time. Yeah, I will admit that right now our government currently has a lot of deadlock in it because it's so polarized. But the government was founded on those things. And operating normally, the government should continue to refine itself and become better and serve the people as we go forward. In reality, that might not always be the case. But this government is designed to do that. So if we were to remove this corruption and the ultra-rich and ultra-powerful and kind of ungum up the gears and let our government roll like it was intended to, would you have an objection to that?
Well, it certainly would be for the best to unclog the corruption. Sure.
Okay.
So I still think that.
What more would you want after that?
From then on, I think that we should go a decentralizing way. So instead of centralizing all the power into one entity at, let's say, a capital like at Washington, D.C., it should be more decentralized.
So,
well, I
so
mean,
here's the thing. Okay, so
even...
we have a constitutional democratic republic, right? So we do have voting, we do have democracy, but we have a constitution and rules in place at the federal level that disallows the majority to trample on the minority. Okay, so going back to the example before that John brought up of, say, LGBTQ people, let's just say they're 10% of the population, and for some reason 90% of the population wants to take their rights away. They have 90% of the vote. Why don't we let them take their rights away? Well, we know that they will trample on the rights of the minority. So we have a constitution in place to prevent that from happening. And the only way you can have that in place is to have some overarching power to enforce it. And that's what we have right now in the United States. So if you have, I mean, I like the ideas. I like certain aspects of direct democracy. I do. I don't like how our representatives, with the way we have it set up right now, for instance, I don't like how you can, a corporation or somebody rich can buy a representative and essentially buy all their votes. It's a single point of failure in the system. I think we can improve that. But if you switch to a direct democracy with no overarching check on it, you will have the majority trampling on the minority in no time. You see what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm not saying that
decentralized,
there won't be checks.
Okay, but if it's all decentralized, how do you have a check in place? You need something to enforce that, right?
Well, sure. I think that I'm not a master of how society should be. How it will look like. I don't know what checks and balances there will be. I just think that it should strive towards more democracy and less hierarchy. From then,
don't you think that? Well, don't you? Let me stop you right there. Don't you think that it's incumbent upon you, who's proposing this shift, to also be able to answer these kinds of concerns? Like, these are concerns that we have. Don't you think that you should have a solution if you're going to be arguing for this reorganization of society? Don't you think that you should have safeguards in place to protect the minority in a certain community? And I mean, again, this all hinges upon everybody agreeing on this single way to organize their community, their society, their city, like however small you want to drill down into it, which honestly, it kind of complicates like the entire idea of governance in general. Like, it definitely doesn't make it easier. It makes it a lot harder. And I don't completely understand why you think that this would be better, but it's whatever. But my point is, sorry, I know that I sidetracked there. My question is, don't you think it's incumbent upon you to have answers for these very basic questions that should be asked when you're asking such a big social change to happen?
Well, I think you're right that I should go back and look at what the theory says and maybe try to find the words and how it should be more specifically organized. I know that I didn't have all the answer. Sorry about that. But sure, yes, I should look that up.
Yeah. And Gabriel, I want to also add in that I think we're all in general alignment about what we would like to see. We want to see less corruption, less abuse of power, less violence, more power to, I would go as far to say, an educated populace that understands human rights, that understands that, hey, we're all living together as a society and we should make decisions based on that. I think we're all in alignment with our goals. We're probably a little out of alignment with terminology and details and things like that. So, I mean, I fully think your heart's in the right place, and I think you should probably keep on pursuing this and keep on developing this idea. And, maybe call back one day in the future and present it to us again and say, hey, I gave it some thought and here's some refinements, and let's continue to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, thank you for your time again. Thank you for raising those interrogations and those points, and I will look that up. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Gabriel.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. We'd love to hear from you in the future, so please do call in again, okay?
All right. Thanks. Bye. Have a nice night.
Thanks, Gabriel. You too.
See you, Gabriel.
I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, which they're apolitical. So I never really started developing like my political thought muscle until I was in my early 30s. So I'm still very clumsy and blunt with my expressions of political opinion and governance. But that was a good exercise. I really, really appreciated that.
Anyone who thinks governments get better as they reduce in size has never lived in an HOA.
Yeah, I totally agree about that. I currently live in an HOA and it's shit.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't ask for Comcast or my yard to be dug up, but I didn't have a choice. It had to happen.
I'm just here to explain to y'all, okay, listen, it's not a big deal, but I have a notice for you all. We're going to consider this one a warning. Now, the trash was picked up at 5 p.m., and it says that you will have your trash can back in before sundown. And it is currently 5:55 p.m., and the sun is down. And so this is just a little warning. We aren't going to fine you this time, but next time, we will. That's a real interaction I had. That's not made up. It's not a character. That's a real thing.
This is not an admission to a crime at all, but my car got towed once because I parked at the pool for 30 minutes in my own HOA. So I bought a roll of those stickers they put on the side of cars that are really hard to take off. And I went over to the HOA office after hours and maybe stuck a few of them on their glass. This was a long time ago.
You weren't, I think the statute of limitations
is run up.
You guys don't even know you don't even know what state that happened in. So
actually, in our HOA, we've written it into the bylaws. There are no statutes of limitations. We're coming for you, son. We're going to get you evicted from your current house.
Yeah, so we had some people in the HOA go around and take note of whose mailbox flags were faded red instead of being bright red, and they got notices for that.
Oh man!
Years ago, I lived in a neighborhood where people would just lie. They would just say. So my roommate and I were so fed up with how many people weren't picking up their poop that not only did we pick up our dog's poop, not their poop, their dog's poop. Excuse me. Not only would we pick up our dog's poop, we'd usually just try and get as much into the bag as we could get every time we'd go to pick up and get at least a couple extra shits. And one day I was out and some lady was just mad that my dog was off leash, even though she was literally perfectly trained. You wouldn't have been able to get her to run off or anything if you tried. But just, that dog's supposed to be on a leash. And I'm like, actually, it's not. It's fully certified and I can do whatever I want. And also, I don't want to talk to you. Actually, the actual thing I said was I patted my pockets and I went, I'm sorry, I don't have any. And she goes, what? And I said, of your business. And that was the whole. But anyway, a few days later, I got you have been reported for not picking up your dog's poop, and with a fine on it. And I called and I fucking unleashed. And I was like, I'm gonna need those photos right now of there's no photos. Nobody actually did it. And it was like, cool. Cause not only do I not, and they took it down, but I fucking blew my goddamn lid. And I'll bet you, cause we would get notices before that for little things one time I was replacing the swamp cooler on the back of my house. And while I was eating lunch, during the project, I left everything out, went in to eat and came back out and finished it. During that period of time, this lady who lived a couple of houses down came over, took a picture of the back of my house and reported that we just had trash out. And so they sent that picture in an email, and I was like, so you you can see that that's a project in progress. Anyway, after the time with the lady dog shits, they never called back, or they never ever sent another notice ever again. Cause I called and like screamed. I was so fucking pissed off. Anyway, HOAs are fascist. You can take some of your calls if you want.
They are terrible.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So next up, we've got Chris from Georgia. There, Chris, how are you doing?
Good. How are y'all?
Doing pretty good.
Fine.
I just had a quick question, and I'll get off. It seems to me from watching this show and other shows that the majority of the Bible is, I wouldn't say plagiarized, but derived more from Homer, Virgil, and Greek mythology. Just thought
You've been watching some Myth Vision too, I see.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
so I mean, sorry, you go ahead, Eric.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead. You go first. I think I took the last one first.
Well, so I wouldn't say that the majority of the Bible is that way, because it's got kind of a complex construction there as far as the Bible goes, because like a lot of the things specifically about Jesus and the Gospels and stuff like that, it's stuff from the Old Testament. They use information from the Old Testament, but see, the thing is that the authors that wrote the Gospels, the stories about Jesus, they would have had to have attended pagan schools. Those were the only schools that were teaching Greek at the time. And the way that these schools would teach you how to write in Greek, to read and write in Greek, would be to take older Greek and Roman stories and rewrite them to make a new story. Like basically take the old story, rework it in a similar fashion to write a new story that tells a new story, but in the same kind of structure and telling the same kind of things. So while the information that's contained, a lot of the information that's contained in the New Testament, as far as the Gospels go, it contains Old Testament information. Like it's information that they mined from the Old Testament scriptures and worked into the story. There's a lot of story structure and elements that have definitely been pulled from Greek epics, as well as, there's at least in, I believe it's Luke, I think it's Luke, uses a lot of like Josephus in his narrative. And of course the structures and story elements and everything like that of these mythologies that you're talking about, like Homer's epics and stuff, the structures of those eventually worked into, the gospel narratives as well. But a lot of the theological aspects of it comes from other mystery religions like Zoroastrianism and other stuff, other mystery cults like that. So I mean, I wouldn't be too simplistic about it and say that a lot of it comes from like Homeric epics and other like Greek and Roman mythologies. I wouldn't say it that way. I would say that there's definitely a lot of influences that go into the construction of the New Testament, to include mystery religions, Greek and Roman epics and mythologies, and which would just be Hellenistic culture. But more importantly, the Old Testament scriptures. There's several different influences that go into how the New Testament was constructed.
And my take on that would be that I do think we have strong evidence that certain verses may have been lifted directly from previous, works, Greek works. I mentioned the Myth Vision stream. I think that was on about a week ago, and I was very fascinated by that. It was very illuminating. And then we also have internal, copying, or plagiarisms might be a strong word, but copying, with the Gospel of Mark, essentially being replicated into Matthew and John, or I can't remember which ones, Matthew and Luke, maybe. We do see verses that may be lifted from other works. It's important not to take that and then run with it and say, "Oh, the Bible's plagiarized." It's parts of the Bible are plagiarized, and the extent to which that might be the case is different. You know, and who you talk to.
Right. I only said plagiarized because I really didn't know a better term to say. But yeah, I mean, basically reworked and all. But even in the Old Testament, I mean, from my understanding, the majority of the older religions also had flood stories.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, as far as like the flood narrative and all that go, you know, the flood narrative that appears in the Bible, in the Old Testament, not necessarily lifted, but definitely influenced by like the Epic of Gilgamesh, and other flood stories of that nature. So, I mean, there definitely are, even in the Old Testament, there are influences from outside the Jewish culture, and they just basically, you know, made their own versions of a lot of different ideas. But the important thing to really understand is that there's a lot of influences that go into how these holy books were constructed, and none of them include God, which I know that I feel like everybody in this conversation can agree that it definitely wasn't God, but I know that there's a lot of Christian apologists out there that really hang on every single word. And so, you know, making sure to be very specific about how there's a lot of different influences, including the Homeric epics and everything like that, I think is going to help out a lot. Like if you were to have conversations with somebody about it, just emphasizing that there were other influences, but also these are major influences too.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate y'all's thought on it.
No problem. I love that particular topic. So.
And Jimmy, if you think HOAs are bad, try living in military housing.
I've done that.
And,
I come from a military home. Been there.
That's an HOA with guns.
Yeah.
It's an HOA with guns. I
tell you the truth, I don't even enjoy living in military towns, let alone housing, but whatever.
I would not want to see our HOA with guns, that's for sure. Although they probably do have guns. We're in Alabama. Everybody has a gun, except for us.
I'm sorry, John.
Anyways, it was great talking to you, Chris, and I hope you call back in the future.
All right, John Nerd, thank you very much. And Jimmy, go fuck yourself.
Word.
All right. Yeah, you know, honestly, I think that it's pretty awesome to see MythVision giving Dennis McDonald a lot of exposure on his idea, because I know that he's got a lot of pushback since they started really focusing on that. So I'm glad that he's getting a lot of positive exposure for it. So because I think that he's got a really good case for it. I think all of the historical information's there to back it up. So.
Yeah, and it creates really great talking points against those who are maybe basically Bible literalists, or people who believe the Bible is 100% inspired by God and it's original and all these things. If a person's much more flexible with which parts of the Bible are literal, which ones are figurative, which ones are inspired, which ones aren't, you're going to have a harder time having that conversation with them or using it as a counterpoint to the Bible being the Word of God. But if you're talking to somebody like, I've had the pleasure of talking to Jehovah's Witnesses on my doorstep for the past 4 weeks. They've come every Sunday like clockwork, and they very much believe the Bible's 100% inspired by God. There's no error inside of it, no contradiction, all these things. And then, you know, if you can pull out old Greek work and go, hey, let's compare the Greek of these two scriptures, or let's compare the Hebrew on these two scriptures. It gives them something that they have to overcome in order for them to maintain their claim. And that can be very advantageous in a conversation if you're talking to somebody like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've actually got a repeat caller, Paul, calling back in to ask specific questions. I guess Paul thought about afterwards. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you both doing?
You know, we're doing pretty good. Not too.
Good.
I mean, I'm not
me.
too pissy yet.
I'm in a good mood.
Well, I'll try to help prevent you from getting to the pissy mood because I mean we're on the same page for the most part.
Yeah.
I did mistype in chat. I typed John was the issue, but I forgot. No, his first name was Jimmy. Oops.
What?
But
I don't understand.
Exactly. We know Snow is the worst part of the issue.
I wasn't listening, so why was my name said? What happened?
I'm not sure.
Because you were. But as far as my question goes,
am I being punked right now? What the fuck is happening?
Absolutely.
Paul, what did you say? Just tell me what you said. I just wasn't listening. Jesus.
You can watch the replay.
Okay, bye. Fuck you. It's my show. You can either repeat yourself or now you can go. What the fuck do you mean I can watch the replay?
So in chat, I said that John was the reason why all the bad things happened on the channel.
Oh.
And I misspoke when typing that because it's Jimmy Snow, not Jon Snow. That's the issue.
No, that's fine. Okay, cool. You're just shitting on me. That's fine. I don't give a fuck. That's great. All right, now ask your question.
So my question, when it comes to dealing with people trying to tell you about religion, this is for either of you or any of you, Snow included if he wants to partake also. I recently learned about a newish religion. It was started in the 1930s. It's called the John Frum religion, and it's about the short version is it's a American soldier that landed on an island called Vanuatu. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And he ended up helping the natives understand that the Catholics from the British and from Spain that invaded their island aren't the ultimate power, and they have a regular occurrence of kind of like Christmas where things get dropped, because during World War II we dropped items on the island to help our troops. Some of them didn't get to the troops. Some of them helped the people. But it's a weird religion thing that was started, and it's still followed and processed even today. What are your thoughts on incorporating that information to dealing with deists that have older religions?
Well, for one thing, I know about the John Frum cult or whatever that's called a cargo cult. There actually wasn't a guy that landed. I mean, this was a religion that was started whole cloth, probably from cargo that dropped like on the island or whatnot. But as far as like there being a soldier named John Frum, that's not a soldier that like landed anywhere or did anything. Like it was something that was completely made up. And the interesting thing about these cargo cults is that this has been the one instance where we actually have had anthropologists like on location to see these cults like develop initially and then be able to come back later and see how they changed. And so it actually mimics the origins of Christianity pretty closely, as far as like the idea that there was no central person that started Christianity. It progressed in much the same way that cargo cults did, because the cargo cults didn't have like a real central figure that started the cults or anything like that. They just popped up on their own, and then just different social pressures took place, and different things happened, and they, it was a cult, and like they do really weird things, they'll construct lookout towers, and they'll have people posted in lookout towers still looking for the World War II planes, because the supposed John Frum is going to be bringing back the cargo and everything like that. So that's one thing I wanted to say, is that there was no John Frum, as far as I understand it. There was no John Frum. This was just a myth made up whole cloth from, however that started. But anyways, what were you going to say, Eric?
Oh yeah, I've heard of this before, that there was a religion founded around cargo drops in World War II. I just looked up the Wikipedia while John, you were giving your side of it, and yeah, pretty much everything John says is in alignment with what the wiki says. John Frum is a mythological figure. Can't really pin it to a specific individual. It's known as a cargo cult. In fact, cargo cults here is plural, so there was probably multiple kind of instantiations of this belief system there. I find it interesting that in 1990 there were 5,000 members, but in 2022 there are fewer than 500, which probably can be accounted as the original believers of this, myth or religion are literally dying off, because most people from World War II are gone. And yeah, from an anthropological study, yeah, it's fascinating how a cult can kind of spring into existence because of, it's members of a remote, isolated population not understanding what's going on around them. So they craft stories and look for patterns, and then form a myth around it and start to practice it, hoping that they can invoke, more supplies to be dropped, or they can please these, whatever's in control, gods, for a lack of a better term, and petition for favors, and probably for other things like, hey, drop us food, or make it rain more, or all these things. And we're in real time witnessing the death of this cult, because like I said, it's 20, 30 years, they're down 90%. So probably another 10 or so years, you're going to have probably, double digit adherence. It's a fascinating case study. Don't know if we can really take any of that. I mean, I guess as far as you can go with taking that and comparing it to like modern day religion, if this can happen in our modern day with, people who are generally uneducated, don't have a lot of technology, how man strives for explanations, even if those explanations aren't good ones. They'll look for patterns and consistencies and just kind of go with it if they don't have anything else to grasp onto. And, they're going to pray, and, hey, back, World War II, they pray, cargo drops. Hey, it worked. Pray, cargo doesn't drop. Oh, okay, their gods must be upset or something. We should do something a little bit different. And they'll ignore those misses. All kinds of probably, great little study points you can look at and really draw those comparisons. I don't think, though, you can use that to necessarily conclusively declare, Christianity was started the same way, with either an idealized version of a historical Jesus or a mythological Jesus. There's probably nothing you can really do to bolster that case, other than to say it's possible for it to happen.
Fair. I appreciate those takes, especially with having the numbers of the religion. I knew those previously, but I'm a few glasses deep in my mead, so it happens.
Understandable.
But I appreciate your help and helping me try and work on that to the current. And you make good points as far as there was no John Frum. That was the name given to a person, or to not a person, but an idea of what the person was.
I would be curious where they derived the name from, because John's a very common name. Frum is a very common word in English. I'm wondering if they somehow latched onto those two words and kind of, I don't know, I'm just speculating, but because it's like kind of races about how this came about. Go, John.
Well, so I mean, like, I'm John from Alabama. That's Eric from wherever the fuck. I think that it probably came like, since they're cargo cults, you know, and them getting all this, you know, all that cargo is probably something like, you know, John from someplace. So like John from, you know, I think is probably where the name came from. Just you know, just the use of the actual word from being to denote like where somebody hails from.
Fair. So Jesus Christ, Jesus was Christ from somewhere, and we're pretty sure his middle name is fucking, but we're not sure.
It's actually Hitler. Jesus H. Christ. It's short for
Jesus Hitler Christ.
Oh, Jimmy's wrong with the line. What's wrong with the line? Meanwhile, I'm over here in stitches because that bitch is funny. That's right, Paul. I fucking see you. I really do. I'm watching it right now.
I'm sorry for the view.
You're
I'm
fine.
pale as fuck, and I hope you have sunglasses on.
My eyes have adjusted to my own nudity.
All right. Well,
We both glow in the
unless you
dark, we
got
know.
anything else to, huh?
We both glow in the dark. That's all we need to know.
I'm translucent.
But
you can see my organs when I'm naked.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul,
sorry
for
for your
calling
luck.
in. And I hope you have a good night there, bud. And I hope you call in the future again.
Absolutely. Until next time, be well.
All right. See you later, Paul.
Is next time 6 minutes from now again? Just kidding. Bye, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul, if you call one more time, if you call in a third time, be sure to ask how we're doing again.
Yeah.
Complete
I like
joke.
that at the beginning too. I was like, what do you think changed since
I was like, it's been 20 minutes.
I'm too mean. I roast too easy. I roasted somebody in the chat, but they took it in stride. I made a stupid poll, and then they were like, this person was like, can we do a poll about all these stupid polls? And so I did a poll about, should we listen to their username, which is a bunch of random letters, about stupid polls. And then I made the only options no and shut up. I'm having fun in the polls tonight. Hey, everybody, say we're about to do the super chat section. So no, Paul's trying to call back. No, Paul, we're suspending the lines. Paul,
Thanks for trying, Paul.
Thanks, but no.
Thanks for trying.
You're the best. I don't actually dislike you. I'm just a roasty boy. I'm just gonna hang up the call-in system. Yeah, we're done. Anyway.
There you go.
Send in super chats. Otherwise, we actually have to sell the show to Anarchy. We'll be selling
Anarchy.
the show. I just
We'll be back.
Gabriel will own the show in a non-hierarchical manner.
as I was listening, I wanted to jump in a lot, but I didn't. But just so much of what he described was the exact same theory behind trickle-down economics. If you give people an opportunity, like I really wanted to ask about by the way, like I'm a small L libertarian socialist, which the line between, there are anarcho-socialists that I mostly agree with. And so if you want to talk about anarcho as a modifier to something else, but in anarcho-socialism, the big capital letter is on socialism, not anarcho. It's a small a, big. And so to call in and just go, are you being skeptical of anarchy? When you're talking about a very specific adjective use, it's kind of like if I just say I'm a nihilist, I'm probably going to be talking about something with a lot of negative baggage. But if I say something like I'm a universal nihilist, that's different. It's I don't know. That's just the most pedantic. I don't know if you all saw in the chat, and I'm not trying to be mean to look, we didn't have any theist callers tonight, which bums me out. But I was begging people in the chat to call in so we could move on. I was just like, there's no one else after. We had another call. They dropped. It was going to be about AI, which I was excited about.
Mm-hmm.
I love AI talks and calls. That's my jam. And then we didn't do it.
You should have probably incentivized callers You say, hey, we got 2 computer scientists here. We'll fix your router. We'll give you advice how to fix your router if you come with a CS question.
Support tonight.
I can fix everybody's router. Turn it off and then turn it back on again. That'll fix 90% of issues.
We advertise that in boomer Reddits, and then when we have them here, that's when we tell them we don't believe in God.
And if John's advice doesn't work, throw it out and buy a new one.
Yep, there you go.
Export
the ultimate turn off.
Nah.
But yeah, so I don't know if I was making sense. He was saying that I was straw manning him, but I'm just trying to logically think out like your the entire thing that you're trying to present here, and it just doesn't seem convincing.
And to say even though it's not there, it's kind of like how there are statements which behave as questions. And you were doing that. So you were saying, it seems like you're saying this, this, and this. And then the point of you pausing is for them to either agree or disagree and clarify. That's not straw manning. That's like just discovery. That's almost the Socratic method. No, it's not. But it's at least discover. Do you believe in blah blah blah? Stop straw manning me. What the fuck are you talking about? And it was just this terribly pedantic thing that at one point I started like pushing a pen up my nose, trying to find out if you can really touch your brain and die, but turns out you can't. So now I've just got ink up my nose.
It's like if I poke the right part of my brain, I'll forget. Yeah.
I'm just trying to lobotomize myself, and it turns out there are some barriers.
Yeah, I think his heart was in the right place. I think we were just kind of not on the same page on definitions. I think our goals are generally the same. He wants to see society prosper. How we probably get there is probably we're in disagreement on.
Sure.
But I didn't detect any malice from him or anything.
I love the shitty implication of, are you using your skepticism when it comes to like, we all grew up conservative as fuck. Don't you think that we've probably exerted some political skepticism? Well, you grew up JW, which you say isn't. But JWs in practice have to be conservative because they don't want government interference with the church.
In practice, it is very conservative, yes, even though they don't label themselves as such because they're very political. But yes.
Do they vote?
No.
That's tight. God, I wish more churches would be brave enough to tell their congregations not to vote. Mormons should not vote. Mormons love vote. So patriotism is sort of a tenet of Mormonism, American patriotism specifically, because they think the Constitution is divinely inspired and they think America is the literal promised land. When Jesus comes back, he's going to put a toe down in Jerusalem and then fuck off to Salt Lake City in Mormon. That's the Mormon expectation.
That's exactly what I would expect a religion founded in the United States would believe.
Don't you think, though, that makes it kind of dangerous as a religion? Don't you think there might be a patriotic surge of Mormons in the future as everybody's trying to like Americanize everything, that you get people like the Daily Wire level of assholes who are both religiously and politically indoctrinated to one day go like, wait a second, I just realized that I can put Mr. Jesus Goes to Washington. Like that can be a part of my religion. Because Jesus went to America in Mormonism also. I don't know if you know that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe 3 things that are keeping that from happening. One is probably the tithing. Probably lots of people don't want to be compelled to give money to their church. Third one would be the Book of Mormon musical. Probably enslaved a lot of people from that, thankfully.
I don't know, man. I think that the fact that Mormonism is an extreme religion, and that fact has been lost by the fact that a political party would be willing to have them as the head of their party and presidential nominee. And that was in 2012.
That was Mitt Romney, right?
Yeah. And Glenn Beck runs the Blaze, and people I've literally heard non-Mormon Republicans talk about Glenn Beck as a prophet. So especially as culture wars continue on and we get a place where people are going to double down on, do you treat trans and queer people in general with, Mormonism has this thing where they're trying to get you to think that they're at least sympathetic to queer people, but they still have a hard line against actually being gay. You can be gay in your head, but just nowhere else. And then the zero acceptance of trans issues. And if patterns hold, like back in the past when we saw this happen with the civil rights movement, they came late to the party after the rest, but they didn't take that opportunity to go, hey, right now we're coming late to the party. We have two choices. We could either change and become more progressive, or all of you racists could join our church and you would then still have a place for community and we could just keep going like as is. That opportunity wasn't there back then. That opportunity will be there this year because of the ability, the ease at which you can build tons of micro radical communities. And because their deepest doctrine does not allow for gay or trans identities to even really exist, let alone be accepted, they're either going to have to admit the church isn't true or double down on it and go, all right, we're the place for bigots to go. And I genuinely think Mormonism as an American religion will, in a fad-like way, become much more popular and a central force in Christian fascism, the way it was before in the Boy Scouts of America. that was the last organization they used to run from the outside.
Jimmy, do you know how many splinters of the Mormon religion has occurred since its founding?
I know of a few.
The witnesses have like 3 or 4 at least that I can think of.
Yeah.
Where like you had like these schisms where, you know, there's like a decision to be made about policy because you need to keep up at least 10 steps behind society instead of 100 steps behind society in order for you to survive. So like at those kind of schism points, you'll have like, you know, groups break off because they can't agree on something. You know of any of those?
Yeah. So and they exist in both directions. Right now you have almost a break off movement, but they're staying within the church itself called the Desnats. Basically Mormon Nazis, Mormon racists, anti-queer, everything. Yeah. And they're growing them as a movement that's still within the church. And there's sort of like a movement of anti-vax Karens within the church as well. Those are still part of the mainstream. And then historically, there is the actual Mormon church, which is not the popular one. The one that Joseph Smith actually intended was called the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the RLDS Church. They're now called the Community of Christ. That is the one that his son and his wife continued after his death. And that was his intention, was his son to take over. Brigham Young's version of the church is mainstream Mormonism. And then you have the FLDS Church, which I believe is still being led by Warren Jeffs from prison. And those are the main ones. But then you have these like little offshoots, like there are progressive versions of Mormonism where people are like, we believe in Joseph Smith and sucking dick. They pop up in places in like California. Some of those, depending on what kind of Mormon you are, sometimes you have to join depending on where in the country you are as a Mormon, you might want a congregation like that, even if you want to suck straight dick. I was told by a bishop once that oral is sodomy, is what I'm getting at. Even if I was receiving it from my wife, that would be a sodomy, which is legal. Anyway, I don't remember the question, but I sure had fun ranting about whatever I said. Y'all want to do super chats or some shit?
Sure. Yeah, we can do super chats.
Or some shit.
Or some shit.
Word.
So first up, we've got the $20 from the Raven 200 who says, "Hey, Godless Engineer, your threat can be that you'll have to sell the show to me. Trust me, you don't want that. I wouldn't know the first thing about any of this. Jimmy, go take a jackknife powerbomb and then 5-star frog splash." I know what a power bomb is.
What is a power bomb?
A power bomb, like you basically you flip the guy up and put his crotch right in your face, and then you slam him down on his back onto the board.
And jackknife refers to a type of dive that creates a certain shape, and I'm guessing that in this scenario, the power bomb is causing you to fold at the waist the way a jackknife does.
Okay.
What's a 5-star frog splash?
I have no idea.
Here's the deal, everybody. It's 7:34. And if you're enjoying lots of random fucking rants and conversations, you have the power to make the show continue on. But right now, we don't even, I think, have enough super chats to cover the cost of the call-in system tonight. Well, we might have covered that, but certainly not anybody's wages or anything. So do send in those those super chats, and we'll keep ranting as long as you do. But if not, the show is going to be over in just a few short minutes. And if anybody has questions about the Jehovah's Witnesses, I'll take questions about Mormonism, and John will take questions about how to cut sleeves off of your shirts. He does it just right. I've always noticed he doesn't have frayed. Like, however, his cutting method is very good.
There is no cutting method. I saw him before the stream. It was a t-shirt, and then he just went like that, and then blam, it was amazing.
There's zero fray on those edges,
John.
though. Like, he's busting out of them with such precision. Yeah, very clean.
It was clean, yeah.
Are you talking about me? Sorry,
Yeah.
I guess I was. Oh, this was made this way. Like, I didn't make it.
I couldn't remember what religion you grew up as. I was pretty sure just evangelical. So I said he'd take questions about Jehovah's Witnesses, Eric. I'd take questions about Mormons, and that you take questions about how to remove the sleeves from your shirts.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you just take scissors and go at it. I mean, just figure it out. Anyways. Let's go to. I think we got more than one.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't.
Eric, you.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. For some reason my brain had a fart, and I thought we didn't read the last one. Yeah. $5 from the Raven again. 200. I feel like the system of rule that Gabriel is trying to advocate for is like the commune known as Christiania. That's just a guess, however. Maybe I have to look that up. I've never heard of Christiania before.
Christiania. I noticed, so during that conversation, somebody was like, does GE not understand the rule of law? And like anything that I said, I don't know how that like applied to rule of law, like an understanding of the rule of law.
Oh, Christiania is a free town in Denmark. The community does not allow guns, knives, bulletproof vests, hard drugs, bikers, or gangs, colors, or stealing. Anything that may promote violence, really.
Colors?
Another rule in Christiania is not to run.
I also would like to know what colors refers to. I assume it means like gang colors, right? Like
gang colors. Yeah. I'm sorry, I might have skipped the word. Gang colors. Bikers or gang colors. So no flying.
Okay.
I don't know, whatever they wear.
I thought maybe they just wear all grayscale clothing. Maybe they dye their skin.
It's like the neutrals in Futurama. I would live there. Why not?
Yeah. All I know is maybe. Tell my wife I said hello.
They're about to die. Tell my wife I said hi.
Hello. Yeah. All I know is my gut says maybe. Here's another one. The Raven 200's like so single-handedly funding our show tonight. Well, that's not true. We've gotten some more now into, and thank you to everybody so far. Morgan in there with the superstar one, but here's the next one in order.
So we got $10 from the Raven saying one of my cousins used to live in an HOA. She got a strongly worded letter from them after she flipped off someone who almost ran her over. She wasn't happy. I wouldn't be happy with that either. Like, that seems like bullshit to me.
Yeah. I thought I was going to say something and then I didn't.
All right, $5 from the Raven 200. I'm seeing a pattern here. I want all the polls, Jimmy. The next poll should be about whether you should go fuck yourself. The options being 1, yes, or 2, yeah.
I don't think Jimmy would actually.
What?
No, you can make more options, I believe.
Yeah, you can do more than that, right?
But I don't think Jimmy would be opposed to going and fucking himself right now.
Whatever you say, no matter the result of the poll, I will masturbate at the exact same time I was going to masturbate later. It'll be today, but it's going to happen. Like, it's, unless someone just shows up at my door and is like, I'll take care of this, but that's unlikely.
Everyone should keep on donating because the longer we're here, the longer you keep Jimmy from masturbating. Sending that money.
That's it.
What a fucking weird reason to super chat. I really don't want him to come.
Well,
Hey,
tease them a
Christians.
little bit more.
Hey, Christians watching, prevent a sin from occurring. Send in super chats.
That's
You'll
right.
buy some time.
That's right. By the way, I took a poll earlier, and 3% of the chat believes there's some legitimacy in astrology.
What?
And I couldn't.
Why
Whoever it
didn't
was,
they
what-
call in?
I don't know. I know. Yeah, I know. I wanted them to call in too. 3% is one of those anomalies where you're like, cool. So about 6 people accidentally hit the wrong button. Like, I don't know. Maybe not, but you want more chats? Fucking fine.
Yeah.
Here's a new one.
All right, we got $5 from Sheridan Bernasconi. There we go. Watching for the Trump indictment to happen soon. Thoughts? Great show, Eric and John. You know what to do, Jimmy Snow, which I'm guessing it's go and jerk off. Or fuck yourself, whichever one. So as far as Trump's indictments, I think is he being indicted yet again?
It's
Like,
looking like
watched
it's
the news
possible
today.
we'll see indictments from the Justice Department this Thursday regarding the taking of documents. My personal...
Oh, okay, the documents.
I bet you they don't indict. I'm going to go out. I'm going to say that it is so close to an election, and because there is so much that one could, even though clearly he committed crimes and did it worse than everybody else, there's such obscurity to the laws regarding what is and isn't classified and what should and shouldn't be classified, that they're basically going to say like it would be too polarizing. It would be too big of an otherwise political problem. And on that basis, they're not going to indict. I'll bet. Anybody else want to take some bets? That's not what I think is what should happen, by the way. That's just what I think will happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'll just be the contrarian and I'll say, nah, they're probably going to indict him.
Word.
Just totally disregard your well thought out argument there. And I'm just, no, indictment.
I'll
Fuck
tell you
him.
what, I'm going to do this. I don't know if anybody's going to do it, but if somebody wants to super chat $100, you can choose the question and the answer and the possible answers for a poll. I will put your poll up for $100 super chat. Put the question and what you want the results to be. Only things are, you can't be trying to cause drama, so it can't be about personal life stuff. It can't be any of that shit. We avoid that like the plague on this channel. You can't be trying to you can't say anything super bigoted or anything like that. Things which obviously are crossing a line, you can't do. But other than that, if somebody wants to send a $100 super chat with, I don't care even if it's mean to me. Like I'm saying, does everyone agree that Jimmy should quit and not whatever? I don't care. Like what fucking that stuff's fine. As long as you're not broaching into personal life shit that's stupid. I'll put it up. And it's okay if it's mean to John too, but not Eric. Sweet Eric. I'm just kidding. Don't be mean to John.
Be mean to me. I don't care.
Be mean.
I'm
to
an ex-Joe's
all of us.
witness. I'm a punching bag to some people.
For a different dollar amount, you can be real mean to me.
Yeah. Depends where you hit me. So I was actually going to mention, Jimmy, you're setting up kind of a super delegate system, like we have in the United States. Like,
yes,
super delegates not only determine, they vote, but they also get to determine who you vote for.
You may buy representation on this channel. You can also co-host an episode of Cause I Wanna with me for, let's say, $5,000. $5,000, and I will let you will co-host a 2-hour, I'll give you a guaranteed 2-hour block, and you can be a co-host on Cause I Wanna. Yeah. The numbers changes for certain personality. Like if Sargon decides to fundraise for that, the price goes up 10x for Sargon. But for $50,000, Sargon, you can be on an episode of Cause I Wanna with me. I am not going to promise that I won't fuck with your voice on the soundboard and maybe sometimes replace your video with just like an ostrich. But whatever.
Screaming goat.
Is someone going to read this one? Jesus Christ.
I don't know. Okay, $5 from Dr. Ben. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
Word. Hi, Dr.
Simple and
Ben.
to the point. I like it.
I like your logo, but it doesn't work in small frame, and we should talk about that. I'll help you improve the. I do like the logo. It would look great on like a business card, but it's not very good for a profile photo, my friend. Let's talk about it.
$50 from a Margan who says, here's some real USD to help the show. Thank you so much. Which, by the way, I do believe a Margan is our moderator, not moderator, our screener
both,
for tonight. Yeah. So thank you so much, Margan, for doing that.
That is news for me. I didn't know Margan was our screener. I called in last week's show with Dave Warnock and I forgot what was her name. Steve? Not Stacey. Anyway, Dave Warnock's show. And yeah, I talked to Ben as a screener. So yeah, thank you. Anyway, I'm gonna probably donate
different
50 Canadian dollars just so I can. Oh, it's different, man. Okay, I guess I assumed. I'm gonna donate 50 Canadian dollars to cancel out this if you real dollars, by the way. So
Margan's a fucking legend over here. Cool. Yeah, here we'll keep on going.
All right. Oh wait, I read a Margan, so now it's Eric's turn.
Yep.
Nobody's
$10 from.
I'm just kidding.
Jimmy. Jimmy, read one.
No.
Why don't you?
No, now I know it's for pity.
No, it's for pity.
All right. Isn't it funny how that flips the switch from I want to do to I don't want to do once you realize it's like kind of like a pity handout? It's a quick way to get somebody to change their mind on something.
I'm barely here tonight. I don't give a fuck. I'll do whatever you tell me. You guys pick a poll and I'll put it up.
$10 from the Raven 200. Jimmy, GE, a 5-star frog splash is a move from the top rope in which the deliverer jumps like a frog, rotating their body and landing on their opponent's abdomen. It's Rob Van Dam's finisher. Fascinating. Thank you, Raven. Any comments on that, guys? My brain is still processing that.
Just thinking about it happening is just it. I don't know. It kind of seems like a redneck move to do. It's like, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to get up on top of the rope and then I'm going to jump off like a frog and I'm going to twist in the air and then I'm going to land on his junk.
It's pretty interesting. Like, I wonder how, because I assume that they have to practice beforehand. So I wonder how they make that not kill them ever. Wait, sorry. Should I be treating this like Santa? Does everyone know that wrestling is fake, or are we pretending that it might not be?
Oh no, I mean, I know it's fake.
Yeah, it's all coordinated.
Why'd you go say that, Jimmy?
It's still real to me, damn it.
Have you seen like the people who like break into the microphones now, and you can literally like hear the wrestlers giving each other instructions, like, "All right, put me in a headlock next," and that sort of shit. Yeah, sad. Sad. But then you get a legend like apparently Andre the Giant wouldn't do it. He was literally just like, no, I'm gonna go out there and just beat the fuck out of you. And you just had to go with it. He was like, he was not okay with like you deciding whether he was gonna win or lose because he knew he would always win. He would just go out there. And I was listening to a thing about this on a podcast earlier. Yeah. Anyway, why did it take away? Which one? Hang on, I gotta figure out which one we left now. Okay, here we go. Here's the next one.
All right. Oh, well, perfect. I guess timing here. $5 from Jason Jack, who says, John, can you talk briefly about why it's worth taking on the burden of proof to dispute the historical Jesus claim? Well, I mean, so for me personally, it is more about just evenly applying my skepticism. And I don't want anybody to take this as me like shitting on anybody else's application of skepticism. This is just how I see it myself. And that's that, when I'm asking people for evidence of God's existence, I'm asking for like evidence, like show me the evidence that God exists, not just like, oh, it's just easier to believe that God exists or any of these other kinds of answers that you hear from a lot of apologists. I try to look for real evidence that solidly proves the conclusion. And that conclusion being that there was a historical man named Jesus that was, gathered a following, preached a whole bunch of stuff, and then was eventually killed by the Romans at the behest of the Jews, or maybe not necessarily at the behest of the Jews, but just killed by the Romans, and then was reportedly seen later as a resurrected version of himself. And so, like, just basic, what would identify the Jesus of Christianity? And so I just asked myself, well, what evidence is there of that? And then, I evenly apply my skepticism and try to find evidence for it without accepting like poor pieces of evidence that would otherwise be rejected if it was not for the whole historical Jesus claim. And then, I just, I analyzed evidence and I came out not being convinced of Jesus's existence. Now, why is it worth taking up that burden? Well, it's worth it to me because I feel like I've got a very good handle on the evidence, on the arguments, on the arguments that are commonly proposed for historical Jesus. And I feel like that under any other circumstance, most people would not accept the kind of evidence that's provided for Jesus. And I'm an advocate for evenly applying skepticism, and I'm an advocate for good historical methods. And so I feel like, I have those, or I understand those. And so keeping in theme with my channel and my personality in general, it's, trying to bridge that gap from these really complicated topics to, people that don't necessarily care to dive deep into Christian history and historical methodology. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As a clarifying question, because I think it'll clear it up too, because this had actually come up on Sunday's show as well. So are you saying then your position as a mythicist is either A, I believe Jesus didn't exist and I will take up the burden of proving that he didn't exist, or B, as a mythicist, I believe that the burden of proof that he did exist has not been met and we shouldn't entertain it as though it has?
Well, yeah, that's actually a really good clarifying question. So I feel that I have the burden of proof if I'm going to present the alternative to the normal Christian history that's proposed. But I also don't think that the current evidence actually provides the evidence that people think that it does. So I guess it's kind of, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle there.
If you chose A, B would be implied to come along with A, but you could take B in isolation. Right.
Okay, yeah. So
but if you took B in isolation, would you be a mythicist? Is, I guess, the question. It's sort of like the it's like the non-version of the colloquial version of atheism. Right. Yeah. Are you a mythicist if you simply say, I don't think the burden of proof has been met for Jesus's existence?
Well, no, so I would say that that's more along the lines of like pure agnosticism, like I don't know if he existed or not kind of thing. Would be the, I guess, the B position, and the A position is like a I guess kind of a hard atheist sort of position, but like for instance, like I'm a hard atheist on Yahweh existing. Like I take up the burden of proof to show that Yahweh doesn't exist, just like I take up the burden of proof to prove that Jesus most likely didn't exist in history. So I think that that's a perfectly reasonable thing to require of somebody that's taking up that position.
Word. People in the chat are going to be very disappointed. We're talking about selling the show and stuff. And I was mentioning that actually, if I sold the show, I have one time basically soft floated. I'm not going to talk about the conditions where, but basically soft floated and said like, yeah, to this specific group with these specific terms and for this amount of money, I would sell the line. But if they had made that, taken that, or matched that offer, you would never see me again. I'd disappear into the woods. I wouldn't then go work for. Though in the first time this soft offer sort of thing was floated, it was like half as a joke, but was like but yeah, we can talk if that's something you're interested in. And in that scenario, I was going to stay involved. But yeah, anyway. And then people in chat were saying that the line wouldn't be the line without me. You better all hope that that's not true, because that's the goal. I do not intend to be public facing at the line for several, like another year or two would be ideal. And then everything I do at the line will be the best when you never have to hear my voice again, unless you want to go watch the archive. I'm not trying to build an organization that needs me. I'm trying to build an organization that the world needs, with me or not in it.
Ooh.
Oh man, I gave myself chills. Mostly my balls because I haven't jerked off because people keep super chatting.
$10 from Skeptics and Scoundrels. Wouldn't it be awkward if I was the one to read this? Yeah, maybe a little bit.
It is weird. Thank goodness that it's at least a different photo on the thumbnail, as in your profile. Yeah, we used the one of you smiling on the thumbnail.
Yeah, you got the one. I sent you like 3 photos. And you use the one that makes me look like that meme guy Harold with his like squinty eyes and his like awkward smile.
I don't know.
We might have to replace that.
I thought you looked happy. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. You look weird when you look happy. I'm just trying to pick up. Just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, $9.99 from Nickel US or Nicholas, whatever. Are pride flags considered gang colors? Just the most fabulous gang out there.
It's a rainbow,
I
right? So it's all the colors.
Yeah.
So
it's all the colors.
There's got to be a gang color in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I doubt it. I doubt that it would be considered a gang color, because like gang is like an organizational unit, whereas the LGBTQ community is more decentralized. So I wouldn't think that it would be.
If you think the queer community aren't getting together to plot crimes, you've never been to a brunch before.
I've been to brunch before.
Apparently not a real brunch. I bet it was more lunch or breakfast. I bet the scale was tipped. You ever go to a brunch and it's only breakfast food? Annoys the fuck out of me. This is supposed to be waffles and sandwiches, both finger sized for some reason. Anyway, go on.
I'm looking at pride motorcycle gangs. There's a few of them. Trying to find the ones that have like the nice colorful coats. All right, it's my turn. $9.99 from the Clockwork Gnome. Since Jimmy has rather unsuddenly gotten on a soapbox about quantified and suddens, I would like to ask your opinions on the use of decimate versus obliterate. Go suddenly fuck yourself, Jimmy. Thanks, John.
Thank you, though. At least you said it right. This is referring to the fact that I cannot stand the phrase all of a sudden. It doesn't, there's no use for it. It's longer than the phrase suddenly. Suddenly always sounds better in every example. I've never heard a time where you can't take an all of a sudden and turn it into suddenly and it didn't sound better, with the only exception of if somebody writes it into a song, because there's a count of syllables, maybe there. But anyway, it's a stupid thing to say all of a sudden. You've got one sudden, just a sudden. Why not 4 suddens? All of 5 suddens ago. It was stupid. And so I just hate that. Anyway, decimate versus obliterate are both really great titles on YouTube. They're very clickbaity words. So you'll probably see this week, Jimmy Snow decimates theist argument on a clip. And then maybe John Gleason obliterates his sleeves. That's a callback.
Well, so, I mean, I really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, to me, so decimate, obliterate to me is a more strong word than decimate. Like if I think of like a town getting decimated versus obliterated, decimate, like I'm imagining like, there's still something left. Like, I don't know, think of like, Hiroshima
like
after the bomb. Like you see like the imprints of buildings and stuff like that. Obliterate to me is like, okay, the Borg scooped up the entire continent, like tossed it into the sun.
It's so weird. I feel the exact opposite of you. Obliterate to me would be, decimate to me is brought down to it like the ground. We're down to ground level. There's nothing left except sand. Okay. And obliterate, like it's like you would use a nuke to decimate, but you carpet bomb to obliterate.
So I really don't understand how decimate can come to mean to remove a large percentage of. Consider if you go with the origins of the word, the actual etymology of it, it comes from Latin decimus, which means 10th.
Are we Googling? I thought we were just talking about our opinions, not the ones we're going to make right now.
No.
I need to establish my opinion's correct.
It makes me cringe whenever I hear somebody use decimate to mean like remove a large percentage of, because that's not what it meant. Because like decimate reduced by 10. So like if you're going to decimate somebody, it's like I'm going to remove 10%. And kind of thing. So
that's,
like,
okay, but that's never been the actual colloquial use. That's maybe a mathematical use, but the actual colloquial use, nobody's ever been thinking about. The fucking Mormons aren't going out and just politely saying, and don't forget to decimate your income this week. That's the right 10% to the church. Go ahead and decimate it on over.
True.
Yeah, it's never been colloquially used that way. It's just been used as to reduce. I'm not saying, by the way, that
disagree.
All right, go ahead. Use it in a sentence in a way that anyone's ever heard used colloquially that referred to reducing by 10%.
Contemporary colloquially or historically colloquially?
Either.
Okay. Let's see here.
I had a pretty good boner, but it decimated. No one's ever said it.
Yeah, talking about etymology and definition fighting. That's. I'm just getting in the mood, Jimmy. So historical use of the word for decimate. The definition is to kill 1 in every 10 of something, as punishment to the whole group. So colloquially, the man who is to decimate, whether it be necessary to decimate. The man who is to determine whether it be necessary to decimate a large body of mutineers.
I changed my mind to contemporary because I want to still win.
You want to still win.
So contemporary, according to this, remove a large percent or part of. So that implies something remains.
It's definitely less.
By the way, the moment this all became Googling, the question was already over because this was supposed to be what our opinions were, not what we're going to make them.
I stated my opinions, and now I'm stating why they're right.
Talking about colloquialisms, and you're opening a goddamn dictionary, trying to make me look like an ass.
So, I mean, regardless of the definition of decimate, I feel like what are your opinions of the use of decimate and obliterate? It depends on what you're going to use it for. If you're talking about just like dropping an atom bomb on something, then that would be obliterate. If you're talking about decimating, I mean, that definitely is like a less amount of destruction. Like mortars decimate an area while an atomic bomb obliterates it. Kind of thing.
John, if you wouldn't mind meeting with HR this Friday.
Who's the HR department?
We have one. We actually do have one, for the record. If something happened and HR was necessary, it would be handled independently from the company who is hired not only to handle all my HR needs, but also my payroll and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll expect an email in my inbox.
They want to talk about decimating your contribution. Only a 10% reduction.
You should open a poll, Jimmy. Open a poll and see what the audience thinks. And if the audience disagrees with me, I'll just capitulate.
I don't even disagree with y'all. I was just saying that the way I use the phrase, or the way I've heard it also the most, decimated has always just sounded much stronger than even as a word, decimate. Maybe obliterate's just been used way too much in BuzzFeed article titles, but it just means almost nothing to me anymore.
Phonetically, the word does pierce a little harder. Decimate.
Ben Shapiro obliterates transactivism. I've seen that title 7,000 times, and it's just like, he said something nerdy with a nerd accent and got no pushback because it wasn't on a platform in which pushback could have mattered. I think there's a small smudge on your camera, John. Every now and then you put your eye in just the right spot and it blurs.
I noticed earlier too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll have to clean my lens later.
Right? Move your. Yeah. Move. Okay. Now move your head to your right a little. Keep going. And do you see how your eye is now, it looks like you have glaucoma. Now it doesn't.
Yeah.
Go back. And now it does. Yeah. You got a little smudge. Little
Okay.
smudgy smudge.
Thanks
God, I'm an
for
asshole.
telling
Why
me
does
that
anyone work with me?
my camera's dirty as fuck. I got it.
Yeah. I like your sleeves.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I'm trying to balance out what a dick I'm being. $4.99 from Just Me. Mr. Jimmy, please do a Trump or Southern accent for the cash I give. Mr. Jimmy, please do a Donald Trump or Southern accent. But could you even imagine Donald Trump doing a Southern accent? I think it would sound a little bit like this. I don't know what it sounds like. I don't. You'd have to. Well, listen up, Mister. So for a Southern accent, the cash I gave you, paying for some laughs, my life. Don't go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean that's like a really good, like, I guess Southern plantation owner kind of thing. But if you really want, like,
that's what Trump would be doing if he was alive back then.
I mean, he definitely would be. But like for a Southern accent, I would go just extremely hick with it and be like, now listen here, y'all. I just need to tell you that Jesus Christ is the only way to get to heaven. If you don't like it, you can shut the fuck up.
Just pepper in some believe me's a lot. Now down here, we don't mind fucking our cousins when we got cute cousins. Sometimes that's what you got, and then you do with it. Believe me. And
hey, I mean, it's okay as long as you don't have kids.
He already sounds like an ignorant hick half the time. Just not, he doesn't have the accent. Like, and they said there was record. It was record in terms of water. That's like a real quote of his when he was trying to describe rainfall. They said it was some type of, they said it was a record in terms of water, referring to rainfall. Anyway, he already kind of sounds like it. Do you ever watch the show I Think You Should Leave?
No.
It's extremely funny.
No.
Watch it tonight. It's on Netflix. There's 3 seasons. It's all sketches. And each episode's only like 16 minutes and there's only 6 episodes. But anyway, just watch it. I was going to reference a sketch, but neither of you have seen it. But the guys at Spectrum think I'm just some dumb hick. They told me that at a dinner, but nobody knows what I'm referring to. So anyway, it's a really funny show. Y'all go ahead and watch or read. I mean,
I think it's your turn, John.
Right, $10 from 50-Foot Punch. I was wondering what your opinions were on genetically engineered skeptics video on Soviet anti-theism and its ads wanting to destroy the church in Russia. I mean, I haven't seen Drew's video. Have you seen Drew's video there, Eric?
I don't think I have, no.
Genetically engineered skeptic isn't true.
Genetically modified skeptic.
It's probably the same
modified
person.
skeptic.
Yeah.
I haven't I remember that. Well, I mean, I remember seeing Drew put out one that's about that. But I mean, what I know about that particular situation of like the anti-theism or atheism in Russia is that it was state atheism. And so with state atheism, what you're looking at is replacing like the worship of church or the worship of a god with the worship of the state. And so it's, advantageous to try to destroy like the church or religion or anything like that because they want people to worship the state as if it were a god, or at least have reverence for it like it were a god. And so that ends up with the state just acting like, other violent religious sects out there. And so, I mean, it's that's not really typically that's brought up in like anti-atheist videos, like, but in Russia they tried to kill all the churches and stuff. But I mean, you can't really compare atheism to state atheism. And so I would definitely disagree with state atheism. That's why I like, the Constitution, because, it's got the Bill of Rights and the freedom for religion and all that kind of stuff. Like I truly value those things about America. So.
Word.
Yeah, and my input on that is pretty much what John just said. You can have all atheism is just a lack of a belief in a god. That doesn't mean lack of religion present. So if the state comes in and says, yeah, there's no god, and by the way, we're setting up a system and a society where we are the power that is to be basically, quasi worshipped, and we're to be followed. We're absolute. And oh, by the way, we do all these terrible things. That's technically atheist because there's no God involved, but it may still be religious in structure. That's all I can have to say about it before I've watched the video. So yeah, that'll be my 2 cents on that.
Word.
$10 from Eric Mishima, anti-wank money. Thank you, Eric, for delaying Jimmy's pleasure for 45
Guys,
seconds.
I can get through a day without jerking off. Like you'd have to send a lot of money for several days straight before I'm like, fuck it, I'm leaving.
Just 24 hours of straight super chats.
And we'd up the threshold. It'd have to be 24 hours of like, I don't know. First we'd up it to $10, and then we'd up it to $20, and then we'd up it to. And at the end of the day, do you know how many things I can buy to make my masturbation better because we did that? Like, Jesus. You don't need to jerk off with just your hand anymore, people. There's better options out there.
So next up, we've got 22 cryptocurrency coins. I think that's euros. Yeah. But from Dragon, who says, sad we missed out on the AI talk, but here, just a little support. Let's build that AI overlord. I'm serious. We need to train up an AI to be like Jimmy and then have it run the channel. I mean, I think that's the way we do it. I would love
an AI producer that could do at least as good as me or better, which would be a good job, I guess. But yeah, that would fucking be phenomenal. If I could take back all of the time I spend on both pre and during and post production and put it into other stuff, gee, fucking Christ, yeah, I'd do the fuck out of that.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening one day, where AIs will be smart enough to know what you want and your goals, and will be able to advocate for you, and you'll be able to trust it to make decisions for you and such. It'll happen one day.
Just scan my brain and let it run the computer. Like fucking clone my brain a few times, give it a nice trickle of thinking that it's, occasionally getting blown, and that'll keep it happy.
You're talking about Westworld right there. Go watch Westworld on HBO.
So. I know Westworld. Sir.
Yeah.
Oh man. The amount that I'm obsessed with all of this, the future possibilities with AI and VR, and I'm literally watching Apple's fucking release thing earlier, just going, how many dollars a day do I have to save to be able to afford this when it comes out? And it's about $20. If I put away $20 every single day between now and when it releases, I'll be able to buy their new VR AR headset that they're launching.
Yeah, I'm excited where it's going too. I think all of us, our retirement homes won't be us around watching TV and arguing or politics. We're all gonna be hooked up to our beds with VR goggles on.
Maybe I see a future where I don't see a Matrix future as much as a Ready Player One future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did someone read this?
Right.
I don't think so.
Is it my turn? I think it's I lost track. Okay, $10 from LG Son. $10 to save a kitten or prolong its life a few more minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because an angel is gonna. Okay.
For every $10 y'all super chat, we save a kitten. For every $10 you don't, we kill one.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Wait, what?
All right, next is $4.99 from Sarah Wilson, who says, so sending supers is our way to edge Jimmy. In that case, Jimmy, don't go fuck yourself.
I started a new series on my show this last week called Shut the Fuck Up. And the first episode was Jordan Peterson, Shut the Fuck Up. And there's 2 minutes of my feet on the table pointed into camera. And at the end of the 2 minutes, I had to take them down because I couldn't get over what I knew was happening in the audience's mind. So if you want 2 minutes of free feet, what?
There's probably one out there. There's probably one person out there during that stream. It was using that for his own pleasure.
The statistics on, I wish it was only one. It's a lot
At
of
least
people.
one.
I crossed my feet instead of putting them side by side just so they wouldn't have an easier time imagining the space between my arches. Yeah.
And just to iterate on this, audience, so every super chat is delaying Jimmy. The money is increasing the anticipation, and every Trump impersonation you expect out of him will decrease it. So you have controls of these knobs and dials. You can really mess with him if you keep on doing this.
That said, I will have to step away at least once here soon if it goes too much longer, because I gotta grab my groceries from the front door when they get here. RPG Devon says,
groceries.
Some Karen tried setting up an HOA where I live, but the park manager said everyone had to agree. I was the last house and told her to go fuck herself. Jimmy, go fuck yourself. You're a hero. Wild that they got everybody else to agree. I feel like nowadays it's difficult to get an HOA established unless you do it at the beginning of when construction is first emerging and you sort of establish it before people have actually moved in. If you're trying to turn a current day neighborhood into it, I don't know. I feel like after the invention of Reddit and just reading so many HOA horror stories on there, I don't know how any of them get started.
I've heard of people attempting to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna say $5 from Robin Webster. Here is $5 so I can talk about Jimmy playing with himself.
Word.
It's weird.
It's too cheap.
$5 from the Raven 200. Also, Jimmy, go take a Future Shock DDT and then power slam through a table, and then finally get locked in the figure 4 leg lock.
Everything you just said.
That's a classic.
That's all. I'm sure that's all wrestling terms, but I think I've done all of those things on some of my gayer nights. They just meant different things. I've definitely been power slammed through a table. Thank you very much.
Okay. $4.99 from Nicholas saying happy aromantic visibility day, everyone.
Word.
I didn't know that was today.
Yeah,
but
I
all
didn't
right,
either.
awesome.
Did you know, Eric?
I don't know many things. No, probably not.
Yeah, so
What were we talking
Nicholas,
about?
I got to tell you, whoever's behind campaigning for the visibility, they are doing poorly because no one here knew. But now everybody who's watching knows, so that's good. Today was apparently a romantic visibility day. Or was it? I don't know where to check. Who knows?
Oh, a romantic, lacking romance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like you have the
I looked
sexual.
over at my notes from Gabriel earlier because he talked about Anomi, which is kind of what we were thinking anarchy was. So my brain was like trying to make that connection in there. I was like, well, this doesn't quite make sense.
Word.
Anyway.
I'll do it. 99 from Elect Base 100. Skepticism eliminated for me. The phrase worked like a charm doesn't make sense anymore and is not true until demonstrated and may not even be called a charm at that point. Take money from Joel. I don't really use the phrase work like a charm. So, but I think I would probably also remove it from my vocabulary in that sort of obsessive way, but I'm an asshole. So.
I can't help but notice, Jimmy, you're stepping in and rushing through some super chats, trying to speed things up.
Pretty hungry.
Waiting for something.
Pretty hungry. No,
yeah.
I'm just hungry.
So 5 crypto coins from Rebecca Borg, who says boobs for Jimmy to get him going, but also procrastinate. Jimmy, put these digits in a calculator later and turn it upside. Oh, I think I ruined that.
What if I get 2 calculators?
Ooh.
That's an old Family Guy joke.
$5 from the Raven 200 again. Wow, superstar tonight. Thanks, Raven. All of the sudden, I told Jimmy that all of the sudden, which happened all of a sudden.
So all of the sudden is the way a lot of people say it wrong. So the actual phrase is all of a sudden, which already sucks, but we also have to counter against the people who don't even say it correctly.
Irregardless,
oh,
that is literally on a whole other level.
I use literally wrong all the time. I'm not perfect in this. I just have the ones I hate.
Is this me? I can't
Sure.
remember. My brain's turning to mush. $5 from Eric Mishima.
I was
Am I
going to say
stepping on you,
I can
John,
read
or-
it.
Someone read it.
Here, I'll read it. $5 from Eric.
No, let's continue to argue over who should read it.
I'm just going to mute everyone but me.
So we should.
From Eric Mishima, decimate, you can still tell what it was. Obliterate, you can't tell what it was, in my honest opinion. Sure?
Oh, hold on, Jimmy, you cut out there. Can you repeat that?
Nope. Sure can't.
I'll take this one.
$5 from North
$5.
Oh,
oh my god. This delay is ridiculous.
I've grown.
Nort Florbson. It's just $5, I guess, for Jimmy to torque his ass, maybe.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Nort Florbson would have been a
from
better
Joe
cult
White.
name than John From.
I'd sign up for that cult. $10 from Joe White. Decimate, Spartacus, obliterate, Aldebaran, let Jimmy go fuck himself.
Aldebaran. I don't know.
Push that.
$5 from the Raven 200. Oh, what the heck? One more. Jimmy go take an RKO out of nowhere. All of the sudden, of course.
What's an RKO?
Round, I don't know.
Okay. I'll do it.
$10 from Fruno Bulax. Jimmy, a la the decimate discussion, cue Dr. Cox from Scrubs and his wrong. I don't know how it goes.
Wrong. You're wrong. I suspect that all of you will go away from this and you'll start to hear the words obliterate and decimate used in conversation, and you will find that the colloquial use is closer to what I think than what is literally correct. But whatever, live your best life.
Is that an argument ad populum there, Jimmy?
No, it's an argument ad colloquialism. We're literally just talking about us as people, just being humans.
I put it in the chat. RKO is a wrestling move famously performed by professional wrestler Randy Orton, according to the Googles.
Tight.
$4.99 from Elekbass 100. This super chat is purely kudos for, in my honest opinion, Jimmy nailing a combo Southern Trump accent in one try, as far as I know. That's all, Joel. I can't believe I navigated all those initialisms. Joel. Okay, I navigated all those initialisms and then I messed up the name. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Joel.
the name with the pronunciation guide next to it. Yeah. Why does anyone talk to me? I'm so mean. I'm just a dick.
$20 from Gritmonger, who says a bit of money to delay Jimmy's decimation of his sperm count. Oh, and I think it's the similarity of decimate to devastate, like obtuse and abstruse. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
Word.
That's a good point.
There's no way I'm gonna do it. We're done. It's over the shot.
That's it?
Oh, shit. So sorry. Thank you so much, Mod, in the chat.
Yeah, I'd say whatever.
I didn't know that was. I didn't know that this was the last one. I was waiting for the next super chat. Okay. So I just want to say thanks to the mods. Thanks to Amargan for doing the moderation. Thank you so much, Eric, for double booking this week because I didn't pay attention to the schedule and help me out with a really quick fill in here. And also tell everybody where they can find you at there, Eric.
Yeah, no problem, John. Thanks a lot for having me. This is the equivalent of being over at somebody's house and like they slap their knee and go, "Well, been quite the day." It's like
Better hit the old dusty trail.
Oh my god!
And
What was
now
I gonna
there's
say?
2 new super chats. Fuck.
So
The links, by the way, you don't have the links in the description. That's where you can find Eric. Fun fake.
No, I want
the RKO is named
I need
after Randy Orton. Those are just his initials, Randy Keith Orton. And then the other one is obliterate definitely has a stronger connotation than decimate. No one says Tatooine was devastated by the Death Star.
Great point.
Because
Home run right there.
Anyway,
hold on,
Eric, what were you saying?
Tatooine wasn't Hold on. I get a nerd beef with this.
Right. It was
Tatooine was
Alderaan.
not devastated.
Yeah.
It was Alderaan, not Tatooine.
Yeah. Anyway.
Ooh. Yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying?
So the idea stands, though. I was about to announce the rebranding of my channel to a Jimmy Snow hate channel. So no, I had a good time tonight. Thank you so much, you guys.
Oh, man.
Well, thanks.
It did the wrong one. It only covered you. That doesn't work.
I'm trying
either.
to end it, and you're just stopping me from every step of the way from ending the show. Oh my god.